Welcome everyone. I'm Janine DiMaria with Pranalink.com. And today's speaker is Bridgitte Harris. And she was born in the UK, but now lives in Spain. And she is an intuitive energy healer, psychic reader, and spiritual teacher. She speaks frequently on ego, intuition, and emotional and mental healing. She's been practicing for many years and is passionate about providing guidance, support, and advice, as well as energy healing and readings. So welcome everyone again and enjoy this thought-provoking workshop. Over to you, Bridgitte.
Welcome everybody. It's so nice of you to join us today for this workshop. It's the power of numbers and what I've experienced from numbers. As Jeannie said, I am from the UK. I do live in Spain with my family. And several years ago, when was it? 2019. This is the background of numbers for me, how I came about numbers, how they entered my life, how they've changed my life in the most amazing ways, and how simple the process of numbers for me are. And it is that each number is relating to emotions, to mindset. So it really guides in where you are, where you're going, and how to adjust if you're not in a place that don't feel particularly good. So in September 2019, I was in my bed. I was going to bed and I was lying down, and then all of a sudden I heard lots of chatter in my mind. It's not something new to me, but this was like new because it was like, all right, you're going to use a standard deck of cards to do your readings, because I had been doing readings. This was like a very direct message. Okay, so I'd been reading, like I said, I'd been reading pictures of people. I'd been reading everything. I'm like an explorer. So I'd started with pictures of people, and then I was like, right, what else can I read? What else is there? What else speaks to me? So I know I was seeing animals in people. So I investigated that and connected to the animals for me that I see in people are the energy of the person. So they let me know about the person, about how they feel, and their strengths, their weaknesses, things like that. And then I'd made myself my own cards, animal energy cards, and then all of a sudden, and I used no other cards. I've never used tarot. I've never used oracle. I've not even touched them. I've never been drawn to these things. But all of a sudden, I'm being told, right, you need to use a standard deck of cards, like poker cards, normal English playing cards, or whatever wherever they're from, but a normal deck of playing cards. And I was like, oh, this is a bit odd. And I started receiving, okay, 1 is this, 2 is this. So I quickly got out my phone and started writing it in my phone, and had all this information in front of me that made no sense whatsoever at that point. And then the next day I woke up, I was like, all right, let's have a look. It made no sense. I didn't understand what I had written, what it was about, nothing. So then November comes, the same year, November 2019. This is 2 months later. And I was sitting there one day, and I had this thought, check your messages with the cards. So I checked the messages with the cards, and they started to make sense. So I was like, oh, this is a bit interesting. So I with the ace, whatever the message was they gave me, I created this main quick message for it, which is take a breath, because that was the kind of feeling that I got from the message I'd been given for the ace. And I went through them, and they all gave this certain type of feeling. So I was like, okay, I think I can work with this. So I started practicing them. I went online and started doing a whole load of readings with this deck of cards. And they made sense. They made a lot of sense. It was nice. But then in December Same year, 2019. So a month later, after I'd started practicing, it was my birthday. And I was like, oh, so I'm 44 this year. So 44 is what? 44 would be 4 plus 4, which is 8. So what does my 8 mean? My 8 is universally inspired changes. That's my quick name for it, universally inspired changes. And what does universally inspired changes mean to what I've been explaining within the cards for the readings? So it was all about these big changes that happen in our lives, and the universe kind of comes and brings in the manifestations that we've been wanting. So it's like, oh, that's really interesting. So, whoa, when I was 8, what happened? When I was 17, what happened? When I was 26, what happened? So I went through my life. At 8, I went to Mauritius. My mum is from Mauritius. I went to Mauritius for the first time with my nan. I'm from London, the UK. London is a city, it's full of buildings. Mauritius is a tiny little island. It's like a complete mix of people, different foods. I saw stars that I hadn't seen in London. It was like a completely new world for me. When I was 17, I moved into my own flat, started living by myself. When I was 26, my husband and I, well, he's my husband now, but at that point we got together. But we had been friends for 5 years before that. But at 26, it was like that's when it happened. We got together. And then at 35, we got married and we had twin daughters. So it was like, wow, if this has been my 8 so far, what is happening this year on my 44th year? It was so exciting. I'm expecting some big things. And that big thing that happened was this understanding of these numbers. That was the big thing that happened. This connection to my life of having complete understanding of where I was emotionally, where I was mentally, and how that, in knowing myself, is then able to allow me to help other people with knowing where they are, what they're doing, where they are within the cycle of numbers. That's something that I'll explain later, the cycle of numbers that I've discovered in my understanding of numbers. So what I did was, after discovering that 8 worked so well in my own life, I was like, oh, okay. So what about 1? What about 2? If I do 2 years old, 11 years old, 20 years old, what happens then? If I do 3, what happens then? What are the similarities that I'm discovering in all of these numbers? So I sat down and wrote my whole life story out with numbers. And what I discovered was that there are specific things that we experience through each number. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain the 1 with you, because the 1 within a deck of cards is 1, 10, Jack, Queen, King, and the Joker. So it's kind of 6 cards, but it's all coming under the number 1. The reason that the Jack, Queen, King, and Joker for me are all 1 is because I consider them to be a 10. So in my mind, they're 1, because 10 is 1 plus 0 equals 1. So today I'm going to explain the 1s to you, because they are the biggest part of what we experience, and it's the start. So if we can get comfortable with the start, we're able to then progress through the other numbers, because everything that we create, we're going through this cycle of numbers. So let's say you have this idea now that you have a concept. That's the number 1. This idea may be something inside of you. This idea could be something that's just changed within you. So let's say all of a sudden, you now don't want to be around people that you had been around. You're not that you don't want to be around them, but you feel a bit distant from them. They no longer feel comfortable to you, but they feel comfortable in a way because they've always been there. But in another way, they don't feel comfortable because you have changed. You're not the same person. So if we then keep walking forward, but we're uncomfortable with walking forward because this person we don't want to let go of, and we know we can't walk forward with them, but we're refusing to let go of them, that is going to create you kind of being stagnant in that place. We cannot walk forward without letting go of what is there. We can't bring in new things into our lives without letting go of things that need to be coming out of our lives. So the one is, it's like a rebirth. That's how I think of the one. I think of it as when you're 1 year old, not when you're one. You come out of the belly and you're one because you started to grow in the belly, no? The gestation period is 9 months, 10 really, but we'll say 9 because that's what they say. So 9 months. And then we have that time once we've come out. Can you imagine coming out of the belly? You've had this protective you've been in this protective place for all these months that you're being supplied everything that you need, and then all of a sudden you come out and you have nothing. You're just in this place. I think about this and I'm like, I'm not surprised that babies come out screaming their heads off, because it makes so much sense. No, what's happening? What's happening? Where's all this warmth and coziness and love gone? Where's it gone? And all of a sudden we're in this place, and that is the one. That is when we have to leave what we've known already behind and move into something new. And it is uncomfortable. It is something that is a struggle to balance yourself with, but it's something that's necessary to be able to grow. It's something that's necessary to be able to learn and to continue to do more. Because if that baby was adamant that, no, I'm not going to do anything because I don't like this place, it's never going to speak, it's never going to do anything. It's going to be stuck there like a baby on its back. No, it will never walk, it will never talk, it will never do anything. That's not the intention, is it? The intention is that we come here and we're able to grow, we're able to progress, we're able to create, we're able to bring more and more and more into our lives, because that is what we're here for, to create. So the one is this rebirth and being able to bring yourself back to that point of, okay, let's start from the beginning, removing yourself completely from the situation you're in and starting from the beginning. Who am I? Because that's the biggest problem with the one. The one is the most tied to the ego. It comes from the root chakra, and that is the part of us that has its identity, that has its inner bully attached to it so firmly, that has all these different parts of the ego. I don't believe ego is just one thing. I think that it's many different parts of us that work in interesting ways through us, and that the ego is what creates our identity, is what creates a lot of emotions that we're experiencing. It creates the thought patterns that we have. It creates everything that we experience as humans if we are only living through the ego. But the point of rebirth is that we're constantly learning a better way to be, a more connected way to be, a more loving way to be, a more exploratory way to be, a more adjusting way to be, that we're able to go through different stages and not be struggling through them as much, because we understand change has to happen. The same way the caterpillar turns into a butterfly, it has this process, and as uncomfortable as that process is, it's something that produces amazingness, no? Amazingness. So that's the one, this rebirth, understanding that your identity and what you believe, your beliefs and ideas about yourself, are not necessarily a truth, and really paying attention to yourself to know what your truths are. That's 1. 10, which is a 1, they're all under the same bracket of 1. 10 is a message of, you have something that you really want, a really big desire, but you're too fearful of going after it. So it's very similar that, like, let's say, like I said earlier with 1, you have a relationship, but it's not really working out for you, or you have a relationship and you see a relationship in front of you that looks amazing, but you're not going towards that relationship because it's something new, it's something you haven't experienced before, and it feels like it's too difficult to be able to move yourself beyond that place and go after it because you're so used to being in your comfort zone. That's the 10. It's about comfort zones and moving beyond your fears. The 10 is the 1 as well, because it's the same thing. When you are having to adapt to these new changes within yourself of who you are now, if you're stuck in your old mindset, you're only going to see problems with where you are. Whatever situation in your life is problems that we focus on. But when you're more adapting to this newer version of yourself, okay, I know this is a challenge. I know I'm scared of doing this, but I can do this. I know I can. And I know that I will be supported through it. You'll make it through it. But it's the mindset of what creates that difference. The Jack. The Jack is a message of knowing your worth. All of these really come down to the same thing, which is like emotions around abandonment, emotions around neglect, emotions around what control. So the Jack is know your worth. The Jack is somebody that's very likely to have been raised by people that were quite, they criticized more than praised. So a Jack, when we're in that kind of phase of the 1, is when we feel that we're not worthy. The person is a very giving person when they're a Jack, but they don't receive. They want to give everything that they have, but they don't necessarily want to receive because they don't feel worthy enough of receiving. So it's understanding if you're in that situation, which is a 1, of, okay, somebody says, oh, you're beautiful, and you can't accept that compliment. That's a sign of your lack of worth for self, because it's like, I am beautiful. So thank you very much. Thank you. But it's not, oh, yeah, all right. It's like, accept what is being given to you. See your worth, because that is what gives you the confidence to be able to move beyond yourself, move beyond your limiting thoughts of what you're able to do. The Jack is about really working with your inner bully. That's the biggest part of the Jack, the inner bully. It's very dominant. So when we're dealing with the 1 and you know that your inner bully is very dominant in your mind, you know the Jack is part of what you're experiencing. So when you're experiencing, I'll give you an example for the Jack. So when you're experiencing something with the Jack, so let's say you really want to go back to school to learn something, but you're like, yeah, but I did really bad in school and I'm really rubbish and I don't really think that I would do very well because everybody says I'm stupid and I'm not really good at anything. So it's better that I don't go back. It's like you're talking yourself out of everything that you want. So when you find yourself talking yourself about everything you want, a really good tool is to talk yourself into it. Do the opposite of what it is that your mind is giving you, because we each have these both sides to us. We have our negative, we have our positive, and when they're working together, you're seeing what you don't like in your negative. It allows you to connect to your positive and to bring them together and say, okay, through the positive, through the negative, this is what I'm seeing, and because I'm seeing this through the negative, I'm now able to act on it through positive. I'm now able to bring something different to this experience because I know I'm seeing it from a negative point of view. And as long as I'm seeing it from this point of view, nothing can change. Nothing is going to make you feel any different. And as long as you keep focusing on these thoughts, the law of attraction will always keep these thoughts prominent. So that's how it helps. When you're able to see negatives, positives, it helps you to bring them together and work through them. The Queen is a message of you have all you need. The Queen is very beautiful, and the Queen is somebody that's very caring. So it's somebody that is always not giving as in a physical thing, like the Jack is always giving inspiration and giving, it's like a cheerleader, the Jack. But the Queen is more like a nurse or a doctor. So it means that if somebody asks you for something, you feel the need to do what they're asking you to do. So you could have the most tiredest day, the worst day, and somebody comes and says, oh, can you do this for me? And you don't want to do it at all. But everything about you tells you to go and do it. It's that you will put other people in front of yourself before yourself. There is no self-care. There is no recharging. And when we get into that energy, it's normally expressed through insecurity. We start feeling insecure about ourselves. We start feeling that we're being used, that we're being taken advantage of. And it's all simply because you're not giving yourself what you need to recharge. If your phone battery dies and you need to put your phone on the charger, you will. You're not going to let it die because you want it. You want to be able to use it. But what happens is you're running low on energy and you're still trying to use your energy from an empty cup, and it's like an impossibility. So then it becomes really irritating, and people around you you'll feel really irritated with people around you and be very snappy or just explode at certain times. And it's like you can feel yourself becoming more and more irritated. I'll give you an example. It's like if you saw something in the sink in the morning on a normal day for the Queen, you would be in high energy. So you would see this plate in the sink and you would just go and wash it up. There would be no fault about it. But when you're in lower vibration, you will see that same sink plate in the sink and you will be like, am I the only one that can do any work here? What the hell is going on? Is nobody else can do anything? Well, what is this? I'm not your slave, you know. It's like that kind of energy. And it's that energy is only coming out simply because you're not giving to yourself what you need, and you're always giving it to other people. And then the thing is that in that kind of energy, what we do is we blame other people. Yeah, but you can help me. You can be doing the washing up. You could be doing this. You could be doing something. But the thing is, because you've always done it, that expectation of you doing it is there. And you've never said, can you help? You've never said, can you help me do this? Or I would like some help with that. You've not asked for the help, but you're getting frustrated that no one's helping. And that's because you're like the robot of always doing. So when you become that lower vibration of the Queen, it is a really irritated, like I said, it feels very kind of used and abused energy, or taken advantage of. And when you're in that energy, a really good tool for that energy is to sing and dance. It sounds so simple, but it gives you high vibrations, because at that moment you're not feeling high vibration, you're feeling irritated by everything around you. But music, it's really difficult to listen to music and not feel it. You can start off, maybe one song will pass, another song will pass, and you're still not there, but it will get to the point that the vibration of the music can only lift you. And once it starts lifting you, or dancing as well, singing and dancing, singing, dancing, listening to me, all of it helps. And once you're in that energy, everything around you changes. You become that caring one again. You become that one that wants to help others. And the thing about the Queen is as well, she don't like to say no. And she struggles to say no. And that's something that is within the learning to say no. And it's not in a mean way, and it's not to be selfish, but let's say somebody said, oh, I'm moving next week, no, or I'm doing something next week, would you be able to help me? I can't help you next week, but I could help you on this day or that day. It's not that you're discarding what somebody's saying or that you're discarding that other people need help, and because you're the carer, you really want to help, but you could put things off. You could make them more beneficial to you and to that person. Because if you're saying yes and you're not really feeling good about the saying yes, and you're feeling like you're being taken advantage of, you're not doing it in the energy that is serving you. And you're not doing it in the energy that's going to serve the person you're doing it for. It's all going to feel heavy, and it's going to be more conflicts around it. Just a lower vibration that don't feel good as you're walking away from it. But if you, sorry, I can't help you this weekend, but I can help you then, and you're putting yourself in that frame of mind to do it then you're in that energy of wanting to help. You're in that energy of being able to share your love. But when we're in lower vibration, it's not love we're sharing. It's frustration, irritation, anger, annoyance, it's insecurities. Everything comes around that, no? So we've got the Jack, Queen, King. King. Everything making sense, guys? Yeah? If you have any questions, we've got questions and answers at the end, so you can ask me. The king is a message of inner wisdom. The king is when you have these gifts inside of you and you have these gifts inside of you, like having certain, like being psychic or being a medium or just being able to feel energy. It's using your intuition. The king is using intuition. And what happens with the king is, as we grow up, we're growing in our families, whatever that family may look like to you, but we grow up in our families. And within those families, different people have different ideas and beliefs. So you can, like, let's say you wake up one night when you're like 4 years old or 5 years old. Let's say the age you can remember, 5 years old, and you're like, oh, mum, I saw grandma sitting at the end of my bed last night, but your grandma's been dead for like 10 years. Then your mum might be, oh, you didn't see that. Don't worry about that. That was nothing. And kind of brush it under the carpet. It's like it didn't happen. Or you say, oh, I heard someone say this, or you give a message, and it makes the people around you uncomfortable with what you're receiving. It makes you turn inwardly with it so that you're not really open to expressing your gifts, although your gifts are gifts. They are presents. They're something for you to share with the world because they are something that is being given to you from the cosmos, from everything. And it's always being given with love. So when we grow up in environments like this, that we're hiding this certain part of ourselves, then it means that we're not really connecting to the power that we have. Yeah, these are the different sections of one. So the one is and then there's the joker, sorry. So the joker is controlling control. It's when you've grown up in an environment that is extremely controlling, that it's kind of, why you're doing that, what are you doing that for, you do it like this. It's just extremely controlling. And you then struggle with controlling yourself because you're so focused on controlling your world around you rather than within you. When we try and control our world around us is when we're in the least control. When we're controlling the world within us, then everything flows around us because everything is flowing within us because we're in the right place. So the one, in short, is about control. It's about self-love. It's about adjustments to adjustments to yourself being new, adjustments to how you move through from one stage to the next. So yeah, that's the one. And then I'm going to explain how the system of the flow works through the numbers. So one is this new rebirth that you would experience. And we can either go through this new rebirth as in a trusting and kind of laying firm foundations of, yes, okay, you're not necessarily comfortable with who you are yet, but you know that you are evolving and adapting and you're allowing that process to happen. The negative of the one is that, no, I am who I am and I'm not changing for anything and I'm not letting go of anything and I'm going to keep everything that I had and I don't want to change, and not acknowledging that there is change around you. That is a very stifled place and it will feel very, it will cause like stress, anxiety. It will cause mainly anxiety. It's a very difficult place to be. So moving from the one to the two, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it in positives and then I'll show you in negatives. The life in positives and the life in negatives. So through the positives, We go through the 1. We're feeling trusting of where we've arrived, like the baby coming out. We're really feeling very trusting of where we are, that we're going to be given what we need to be able to grow. The 2 in positive is that you are connected to the universe, and that you're seeing signs and synchronicities, and that you're able to interpret the messages that are given to you and feel the love and support that is around you. The 3 is being your authentic self, being able to be who you are unapologetically, the weirdos that we all are. Because for me, I think of weirdo as an amazing word. I love the word weirdo, and like people are like, no, but it doesn't sound nice, but it's a great word. It's like, we're unique, we're weird, we're just individual, and that's who we're meant to be. So the 3 is being your authentic self. The 4 is you've taken actions towards something, but then you have doubts about the actions that you've taken, and you start worrying, was that the right thing that I should have done? Wasn't that the right thing? Maybe I should have waited a little while. It's having doubts of your actions. 5 is having balance. No, I'm doing it in positive. Sorry. 4 in positive. 4 in positive is you've taken action, and you're happy about the actions that you've taken. You're confident in that they're taking you to a good place. You know that you're enjoying the process. Even if you're confused about certain things, you know it's taken you somewhere positive. The 5 is that you're balanced through this process. You're connecting to nature. You're connecting to yourself. All of it's connecting together. You're in alignment as a whole. The 6 is that you're now planting seeds. You're seeing things that you like, and you're, oh, I like that. Oh, that house is amazing. And you're feeling good about the things that you're seeing, and you're positive about them. The 7 is that you have put work into what it is that you're trying to bring into the world, this physical effort into what you're working on, and the patience of allowing it to come. The 8 is the manifestation itself, coming into your life like a bomb. It comes so big. And then the 9 are the opportunities that come from these manifestations that come. Because when a manifestation comes, there's opportunities that come from that manifestation. So the 9 are the opportunities that come. And the 10, and I know 10 is 1, but I do use 10 because 10 for me is like this in between stage of the 9 and 1 of how you get ready to go back to the 1. If you go through the 10 fearlessly, then you're going to get to that 1, and it will be an easy ride back to the 2. But if you get to the 9 and these opportunities are in front of you and you're not going forward with them, not the 9, the 10, the opportunities, and you're too fearful to go towards these opportunities, you're going to go into the 1, yeah, very fearful, and everything will be kind of pulled back. You're not moving on that cycle. You're kind of going back to the beginning. We learn certain things along the way, but emotionally and mentally, you've gone back to the beginning because you're working from old habits rather than the newer version of yourself. In positive, no, that was positive, what I just gave you, wasn't it? In negative, the 1 is feeling stressed, it's feeling anxious, it's feeling like the world is really confusing, and that everything is a problem, and it's really difficult to see beyond them problems. The 2 is that you feel alone and withdrawn and lonely, unsupported, unloved. The 3 is that you're wearing a mask. The 4 is that you don't trust your decisions. The 5 is that you're unbalanced. The 6 is that you're planting seeds, but through poison. You're planting them, but it's with a thought of, well, that same house that I was saying, you see a house with the 6 in positive, you see a house and you're, oh, what a beautiful house. And that's it. You just allow it to expand within you. But the 6 in negative is you see that house and your thoughts are, I can't afford that house. How am I ever going to get that house? I'll never be able to live in that house. It's like before the seed has even had a chance to be watered, it's already being killed. That's the 6 in negatives. The 7 is that you're putting all this work into what you're wanting to create and build in your world. But what you're doing is putting all this energy and effort into it without a belief of it working. And because you don't have that belief, you keep putting the work in without understanding that patience is required. And it's just this need to keep doing. The 7 is kind of a mixture of the feminine and the masculine energy, the masculine, the doing. But once you've done the doing and you know that you've done it, then we've got the patience with the feminine energy. But if we keep with that energy of the masculine energy, then you're just doing. That's burnout. You'll get to the point that you'll give up because you won't feel like anything is happening. And the thing about manifestations is that, number one, they come when we're ready for them. And we have to be ready for them in what we know already, how we feel already, where our mind is already. Because if we're not, when they come, we're not able to get the best out of them. So they come when we're ready for them. So the 8 is the manifestation coming in all of its magnificence. And then, no, negatives. So the 8 is that the manifestations come, but it will feel like your world is falling apart. Let's say you have a partner and your partner isn't the ideal partner, but you've been with them for a little while and you're comfortable with that person. But in your mind, this person, there are other things that you would like within your relationship that this person is not able to give you. So the universe can break you up. Somehow you end up broken up. It could be with a job, you end up losing the job. But then whatever comes in after that is going to be so much better because that is the manifestation. But you have to get over what you've lost to be able to receive this manifestation. So it's kind of like the 8 is it's amazing abundance that comes through you. But how are you viewing this abundance? Is it feeling like your world is falling apart because you don't trust something better is coming along? Or are you trusting of what is coming? And the 9 in negatives is that you're very independent and closed off emotionally and mentally. You have been in a place that has been a lot of hurt, a lot of distrust, a lot of people not being nice to you. And in the past, this is in the past, and it's the emotions that we still hold on to. So if you're still holding on to this kind of weighted rucksack of emotions and mindsets, then when an opportunity comes to you, it's really difficult to go towards that opportunity. I'm going to give you a visual because I work very well with visuals and that's how it makes sense to me. And I think it will make more sense in a visual. So this is like, I think of the 9 as like you're being in a shed. And this shed, it doesn't have a roof. The message for the 9 is come on in out of the rain. This is a song. And it's got this shed, but it's miserable. It's raining. There's no roof. So it's raining inside the shed. And you kind of like have these little peeks outside the shed, see what's going on, what opportunities are there, whether something's there, and you can step outside to go towards it. But let's say this house is outside this shed and it's an amazing house and it has everything that you would want it to have, or it has everything in it that you would like to have. But you have to get out of the shed to go towards the house. So if you leave this shed and you put that rucksack down of old emotions, old mindsets, before you leave that shed, and you walk out of that shed with the mindset of, okay, that's all behind me. And now I'm going here. I'm going to this house with everything I've wanted inside of it. And I'm open to the experiences that I'm going to experience. Or you leave that shed with that rucksack on your back, and you walk towards that house and you can go into that house, but you've still got that rucksack there. So all the emotions that you've been carrying are still with you in this new experience. So when you're going into the 1 from the 9, that change that you're experiencing within you, all these emotions are still there with you. They're still there being dragged along with you. So as you're going into your new cycle, these emotions are still there. They're going to continue until you let them go. Or you can stay in that shed with your rucksack on and be too fearful to actually even come out and even make an attempt to go towards that house, which is the number 10 for me, which is that number one. You're not even taking that step towards an opportunity, towards a change, towards letting anything go. So each of the numbers have their own specific feeling, emotions, mindsets, and it's how do you work through them to get from one to the other. Making sense, guys?
I'm enjoying it, just trying to take it all in right now. This is good stuff. Thank you.
You're welcome. If there's questions, I don't mind questions now, yeah, because I think that I've given you a lot of information already, and maybe some of it needs clarification. So if you would like to do that, we can do that.
So for instance, say I'm going to be 56 this year. So does the 2 1s, is that going back to a 1? No, because 11.
It would be 11 because
Yeah.
11 is its own unique number as well. 11 is like a master number. It's different again. Or I could bring it to 2 because 11 would make 2 if you break it down, if you keep breaking it down. But 56,
it would be 11.
It would be 11. And 11 I don't normally break down unless I see it as a 2. I wouldn't normally see an 11 as a 2 though, but it does happen. But it would be an 11. And 11 is a message of following your path. It's a bit like a rainbow for me. A rainbow for me, when I see a rainbow, it's like, right, you're on the right path. Everything is good. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep feeling the way that you're doing. Keep trusting. Keep believing. It's that feeling of, yeah, everything is good. 56 is interesting though as well, because it's a message of this year, you will be needing to balance. And through that balance will help you to create, because it's leading you from the 5 to the 6. So through that balance, what you're creating will be nurtured rather than poisoned. But you have to create that balance, because if you don't create the balance, then what will happen is it will be poisoned rather than nurtured.
Yeah. No, perfect. And so how many numbers is there actually? If you know what I mean,
It's just
that you use
9. There's only 9.
Yeah.
There's only 9 because everything gets broken down. Let's say let me look at the time. The time is 17:44 at the moment. That's really nice. Ooh, I like that. The time is 17:44 at the moment. That's like amazing because that's like 8. This is manifestation time, guys. There's 8 just there for us. But it tells me that there's changes coming, that the work that I've put in, or the work that has been put in, because I'm not taking it for myself, because I'm sharing it with you. So it's a collective message for us. So the one would be, okay, you've experienced some changes, because the one essentially is the rebirth. So you've experienced some changes. You've put the work in with the 7, because it is perseverance and patience. You've put the work in to what you have wanted to bring into the world. You have been patient. And you have put the action in with the 4s that were there. But it was 4-4, and the 1-7 is 8, and the 4-4 is 8. So this is like you've worked through your changes, you've put the work in that you needed, the manifestations are assured.
Can't you also
I could
say
read it in negative. Oh, sorry.
No problem. I was just going to mention 11 aligns to Jack also.
I have all of them as 10.
Yeah,
The Jack
but you
for
can
me is a 10.
interpret them both ways.
It depends on the person, though. Everything can be interpreted how a person interprets. So you can interpret a Jack as 11. I can interpret as 10. Another person might interpret it as something else, or not a number at all. No? I interpret Jack as 10. But if you interpret it as 11, that means that it's a 2 for you.
It's a 2, but also in terms of how you were explaining 11, you were
It's a
explaining Jack,
powerful number.
where you know your worth.
When I was explaining 11, 11 is, well, 11 is a message from the universe supporting you. The 2 is a message of you connecting to the universe, you connecting to the signs and synchronicities. So they're slightly different because the 2 relies on you connecting to the messages. The 11 is that they're being sent. It doesn't mean that we're seeing them. It depends on how open we are at that moment. Because let's say we're in a 2 and we're feeling lonely and not very, we're feeling lonely and unsupported and unloved, then you're not likely to see signs and synchronicities. But this is at the time that we should be looking for them, because that's when we need them the most. And the Jack, my explanation of the Jack is a lack of worth. Know your worth. So this is about your inner bully talking to you, and about how your own mind is telling you that you're not good enough.
Well,
It's,
and you mentioned earlier with the Jack, how do you move from critic to praise? That's what the message is, right?
yeah, I'll give you an example. When I first discovered this, the Jack, know your worth, what I did was every time I heard a negative chatter start in my brain, and I promise you before it was a constant thing throughout the day. I was constantly having to talk to myself. So I would hear, you can't do that. And straight away I would respond to it. Yeah, I can do that. I've got this. Or I would hear, you're ugly. I don't know who you think you are. Yeah, wow. I think I'm beautiful. I'm amazing. Wow. And I wouldn't argue with the negative voice. I would just counteract it with what I'm teaching myself to believe. Because these beliefs that I have inside of me coming from the inner bully are coming from somewhere. And for the Jack, they're generally coming from a place that we grew up in an environment that was very critical. It created a perfectionist. You never feel you're good enough. So I had to teach myself to feel good enough. I had to teach myself to know, yeah, I am amazing. I've got this. I'm just brilliant. I'm a genius. I told myself all kinds of things. Everything my mind told me in negative, I literally converted it to a positive, because there is no negative without positive. It took me a couple of weeks to quieten that voice down. And after a month, that voice was gone. But it was a continued, it was a consistent talking to myself. And I promise you, there were some days that I would hear, da, 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 and I would counteract it with something positive. And then straight after I'd counteracted it, something negative would come straight away again. And I was like, hey, you're messing around with me now, aren't you? You're just having fun with me. And I kind of had it like it was something, like my friend, that it wasn't something that I had to run away from. And it wasn't something that I had to kind of hide from or brush under the carpet. It's parts of me that I need to deal with. I needed to deal with, otherwise I couldn't get to where I am. So I had to create something that brought that contrast. And for me, that is the contrast. If you are being told this, bring the contrast, because you know the contrast. You know it, don't you?
It's the process of transmutation from negative back to center, back to balance, not necessarily to positive.
Okay, back to balance. It's a good way of seeing it. Because once you're in balance, then the negative is not as forceful. It doesn't have that momentum that it had. So at least you've started from the beginning again.
We need the negative.
The negative isn't bad.
As a positive.
I don't think of the negative as bad. I don't even think of the ego as bad. It's not bad. I think of it as an amazing tool to teach us the good.
Right.
What we don't like, and we see that we don't like, we're able to focus on what we do like. Without one, we don't have the other. If we didn't know what we didn't like, we wouldn't know what we did like. It's really important to have the contrast. It's just, are you using the contrast to benefit you? Are you getting lost in the contrast? Because if everything that you're seeing is negative, or you're having moments where all you're seeing are negative, and that is where the focus is constantly, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. You can have 5 things in your life that are 4 things that feel amazing. And you can have 1 thing that feels terrible. If you focus on that 1 terrible thing, those 4 great things will change to feel terrible. So it's where are you putting the focus, and in what energy are you putting this focus, which is really the 6. That's all about the focus, the nurturing or the poisoning. How is it that you're giving yourself what you need?
At the beginning, you mentioned you were surprised that you were asked to look at the deck of cards. I just wanted to mention the deck of cards is a very ancient Egyptian tool, and it reflects the calendar year. It's a hermetic product from Hermetic wisdom. So in a way, it's a sacred tool.
I feel like I was given it from them as well. I'm very connected to Egypt. I don't know a lot about Egypt, but it's like I receive information, and when I go and check the information, it always takes me back to Egypt, especially Ra. Yeah, I don't understand it though. It's like understanding comes with time sometimes, but I am very connected to ancient Egypt, but not within this lifetime.
No, you probably had an initiation back in Egypt under the Hermetic Mystery School, and the memory you triggered takes you back there, because initiation brings us to a memory that goes beyond each path, each lifetime.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I've received so many things. I also received, it wasn't long after this numbers one. When was it? April 2020. I received a message one morning. It was the weirdest thing. Right. You need to convert the alphabet into numbers. And I was like, I don't even understand what you mean. I don't get it. I don't know what I'm being asked to do. So I went into my kitchen with my book and my pen. And I said to my husband, right, I'm being asked to convert the alphabet into numbers. And he was like, but I mean, you just put A1, B2, 3, C. And I was like, no, that's not what I'm being asked to do. I understand that that's how the logic of it would go, but that's not, it didn't feel right to me. So I sat down and wrote out I wrote all the alphabet and then put my numbers beside it. It didn't make sense. Again, it didn't make sense to me. But when was it? That was in April. I received the message, and then in the August, I understood it. I needed to learn some things between April and August, which is why I wasn't understanding it. But once I'd learned what I needed to learn between April and August, it all made sense. And that's the interesting thing about where we're going as well. There's always these steps that we need to learn, and we're always being impatient of, yeah, but how does this work? And why is this not working? It's like the patience of allowing new knowledge to come through so that it is able to kind of click into place.
So numbers did not exist in antiquity. They used letters.
Okay.
Numbers are a fairly recent thing. So ancient Pythagoras did all of his work using Greek letters. So they were one and the same back in time.
Numbers and letters.
Yes.
I see them as, I see them a bit like that. It's language. I see them as language.
The Romans created the first set of numbers with the IV, right? But before that, it was straight letters.
Nice. I didn't know that.
Do you guys want me to show you how the card relates to the calendar, the deck of cards?
How the cards relate to the calendar?
And this, I think, explains also why you can do the numbers both ways, interpreting the Jack, Queen, King
Yeah.
as one or not. So in the 4 colors, I don't know what we call the diamond and the hearts and the spades and the clubs, right? You don't call them colors, whatever you call them. I put it down as colors here. That's the 4 seasons. The red cards relate to the day, the part of the year when the day is longer than the night, and the black cards to the days when the nights are longer than the day. Each color, family, whatever those are, has 13 cards, and there's 13 moons in a year. And then if you begin to add their values, if you add them with the Jack as 11, Queen is 12, King is 13, you get 91 days, which is how many days you have in a season. Times 4, it takes you slight below the number of days in the year, which is why the deck has jokers to compensate for that irregularity. And then if you add them the way you did as ones, so the 10 is a 1, the Jack is a 1, you come up to 49, plus the 3 jokers, you have the 52 weeks in a year.
Yeah, when I first got told to do these cards, well, initially I didn't understand it, so I didn't do anything. But once I had a little bit of understanding, I actually went online and checked about reading a normal deck of cards because I'd never seen it before. I didn't know anybody that read a normal deck of cards. Yeah, I'd never seen it. So when I checked, it's actually called cardomacy, and I looked at what their meanings were for the cards, and it was like, there are some similarities, but it didn't quite fit. The cardomacy didn't quite fit, but there are similarities, definitely.
Oh, I wasn't interpreting any meaning in the cards. I was just showing how
No, yeah,
numerically they
the days.
reflect the calendar year.
Yeah. It's interesting. It is interesting, all these numbers, the way that everything comes together. No? Does anybody else have any questions? Have you got any other questions, Clara?
Thank you, Bridgitte.
Oh, hello.
Thank you. It was pretty good. Informative. I've never had any, similar session before, so I was curious.
Okay. Curiosity didn't kill the cat.
It's good.
That's good.
Thank you.
And you have any question?
So at this stage, I guess if there's no more questions, Bridgitte, thank you so much for this wonderful workshop. Very interesting. And, I'd like to encourage people to reach out to Bridgitte if you have any more interest in her services. I also would like to mention that Marina and I have been doing a series of videos that is also posted on Pranalink that talks about initiation, which to me, that's what came to mind when I heard about your journey, Bridgitte, about your downloads of using the cards, because that was part of, I guess, the early ancient initiations. People would do card reading and that as well. So I think there's some synchronicities there between what you do and the information that Marina was presenting in this video series, and we're hoping to have a discussion group around Marina's videos later on this year. And we would encourage everyone here to be a part of that discussion as well. And I think, Bridgitte, your input, if you could come to those discussions with your background, I think it could be very interesting. So
That sounds great.
thanks again, everyone. Wonderful webinar. And again, Bridgitte, thank you so much. This was really interesting.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you all for
Yes.
your time, your energy, your everything, your love, your support, and wishing you all a wonderful, wonderful Saturday. No, everybody's on Saturday. No,
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, that's good. 'Cause sometimes we're in different places and there's different time zones, and it's sometimes on Sunday already. But no, everybody's still on Saturday. Great. Thank you
Yeah.
all. It was really nice.
Yes,
Really
thank you
nice. I
very
hope-
much, Bridgitte. Really
You're
enjoyed
welcome.
it. It was wonderful listening to. I appreciate your time. It was good.
Thank you.
Yeah.